Good evening. What's up, guys? In today's episode, we will talk about a slightly different topic.
The Olympic Games, because everything is political and we need content.
Well, we will cover the opening ceremony, the games, the Olympic Village, and the closing ceremony. Are we ready, Ale?
Let's do this.
Right, so we can start with overall the opening ceremony. I would say was a peculiar one, to say the least. We had famous soccer player Zidane, who participated. Then we had some children carrying the torch that then had to be lit. We had Assassin's Creed reference for nerds like me. We had Celine Dion, who after a while came back and gave a performance. Also, Lady Gaga gave a stellar performance, and that was the nice part, or at least let me be unbiased. That was the non-controversial part. Now, there's also another part of this opening ceremony, which was, to say the least, controversial. Why? Because it consisted of a drag show, which in and of itself is not much of a problem. The problem is that that drag show was based on, or at least inspired, to a certain extent, by Leonardo da Vinci representation of the Last Supper. We have Al Jazeera saying men parading around as caricatures of women do not communicate love and inclusion. It's an insult to millions. We have many other news outlets who condemn that this part of the ceremony. We had the Holy See, who was sanded, obviously negatively reported on the opening ceremony, and then we have a part of an interview that, according to CNN, the spokesperson of the Paris 2024 Olympics and Decamp, I don't know, I'm probably butchering her surname, in which she said that part of the ceremony clearly never was an intention to show disrespect to any religious group, while the director of the opening ceremony, Thomas Joly, insisted that the Last Supper, the mural painting by Da Vinci, wasn't an inspiration behind the scene. Now, I think this is, sorry to say, bullshit. It's clearly like almost a one-to-one representation, but I can leave the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't supposed to insult. I don't know their intentions, but it's clearly at least somewhat based on it. Give me your thoughts, Ale.
I mean, as you said, it's very controversial. We should start, as in a judicial proceeding, with the presumption of innocence, so saying that they did not want to mock the Last Supper of Da Vinci, they just wanted to have something, we can say, spectacular, stellar, and apparently for them, we can say, representing again the Last Supper, but in a more contemporary version, close to the society, in particular to the French society, which is a very open society, was the way to do that, to achieve something, a stellar performance. But I think that the religious controversy around it is fair to be mentioned, meaning that it is clear that even if unintentionally, that episode, that part of the performance of the opening ceremony, clearly mocked and was something to joke on the Last Supper and to joke on the religious aspect. Even because we have seen other episodes during the ceremony, like the one in the National Library, where there were three guys then going to a room, kissing each other, two males and one girl, or at least that's how I assume they are, because I will not identify any gender without knowing them. And so I think everything was a subtle way to mock the traditionalists and conservatives and all the values that we have in the society, which are our heritage from the past. So I perceive that in that way, and that is very sad if it is so, since I believe Olympic Games, such an incredible sport event, should be totally unbiased, both in terms of religion and in political terms.
Yeah, I have a different take. Well, I mean, I agree, but I just think sexualizing everything in every aspect of society in the Western world is getting out of hand. I don't understand why we have to celebrate sexuality. Seriously, especially at a sports event. Something else, maybe, but at a sports event where everybody's supposed to be inclusive, right? If you're straight, if you're gay, if you're this or that, it doesn't matter. We're also going to touch on nationalities. Actually, you're going to touch on nationalities later. It shouldn't matter. It's all about sports, being together. There's kids watching the show, and I remember, I don't have, maybe I'll find a picture and put it on YouTube, but I don't know if I'll find it. I saw it on a news outlet. There was a picture of one of the drag queens with the balls out, the ball sack out, and again, it's also something that kids watch. So I don't know if that's really appropriate. I think true equality is when we stop talking about sexuality and we start talking about, in this case, sports, right? Not always putting at the center your identity, because it's almost as if identity is more important than the individual. Well, I believe the individual is more important than than the identity, but that's a whole other episode. Um, I heard about the little ships there, the boats not being exactly comfortable.
Yeah, I'd say that many people complain, many athletes, and also just simple people watching the open ceremony complain how the bateau mouche, these ships, these boats navigating the Seine, were organized for athletes, because there has been all this parade of all the Olympic teams. We remember this year there were, I think, 206 Olympic teams in total. There has been a huge mess in terms of the dimension of the different bateau mouche, because we have seen, for example, and which was pretty funny, but also in a certain sense discriminatory, according to me. Some countries like Bangladesh, Solomon Islands, or other small islands in the world, with very small boats, and I know that that was made because they had like two, three, four athletes, but other than we have other nationalities, maybe of the same extent. For example, if I'm not wrong, it was either American Samoa or just Samoa, in a way larger boat with a lot of space, and they were like two or three athletes. So the organization on Bateau Mouche was pretty obsolete, if I may, and pretty uncomfortable for athletes, especially considering some Olympic teams with a lot of people, with a lot of athletes, which had to stay in a really small place, all tied together without having the possibility to move properly, to show the flag of the country properly, and so on and so forth. So I think the organization was a little bit was a defiance, to say a French term.
Hmm. Well, outside of the opening ceremony, there's also a little fact that I've seen, which is that to ensure security for the public viewing space around the Seine, technically, the traditional booksellers with the distinct riverside boxes on the banks of the Seine were supposed to essentially be forced away. But after some pushback, President Emmanuel Macron decided that this should be overturned, and so um, they enacted a different security plan, which is interesting. How there's almost a duplicity in this event, because we were talking before how the Olympics of 2024 is open and inclusive, but then they're also keeping the traditional aspects of the French society, such as these booksellers. So I think it's never about the real morals and values of equality and tradition. It's just about what makes more money, essentially. Then there has been some disruption to residents or some Parisians, but it's not that important. In every event like this, there's people who feel like they're disrupted. They want it to go away, but that's normal. There was also a French attack on French high-speed trains. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, there has been in I think 2 or 3 days, or maybe also the day before the start of the ceremony and of the Olympics per se. There has been an attack, both physical and digital, to the French high speed line. We know that I think some electrical stuff was being damaged, so trains could not properly travel, as well as some digital hacking to the system managing the traffic of trains. So we know that many Parisians who, as you said, were disrupted, wanted to go outside of Paris, maybe in their countryside or somewhere else, could not actually move because the traffic was for a little bit blocked, to avoid maybe accidents between trains. And this is like, again, a defiance from the French, because if you raise security means by, for example, as you said, removing the bouquinista, by also, we remember calling a lot of police from the rest of the world, since I remember they have called many police officers from other countries of the world, like South Korea, Colombia, etc., came to France to help the French police. And then you suffer something like that, especially, for example, I remember the hardest attack was on the station of Montparnasse, which is one of the most crowded one. So you cannot. I mean, it's not totally your fault, since sometimes you cannot even prevent that. But I'm sure that they could have done better, at least in terms of reinstalling the normal trains traffic. But that is just one of the many controversies we had. Now I think we can directly move on to the games per se. Then, so to the Olympic Games, when they started, how did they go? I would like to start with something related to the athletes, to the participants, and in particular Russians, Belarusians, and Israeli athletes, as well as Palestinians, obviously. So this year, Russians and Belarusians were able to compete again in the Olympics, but only under a neutral flag. And this was pretty interesting, since Russia and Belarus were banned from the Olympics after Russian invasion of Ukraine. But Israeli athletes could compete under their normal flag as Israeli athletes per se, without any kind of problematic, despite they are killing innocent civilians, killing innocent children, etc. in the Gaza Strip. So I see a very big hypocrisy and asymmetric consideration when deciding which athlete could compete to Olympics, which team could compete to Olympics. For example, the mayor Hidalgo of Paris stating sanctioning Israel in relation to the Olympics is out of question. Macron saying Israel responded to a terrorist attack. This is not a war of aggression. I mean, they are. Macron is technically right, but at the same time, if you are condemning Russians and Belarusians not to participate just because of their nationality and because their country is invading or attacking another one, you should do the same with Israel. And and I'm not saying that I support this, because I'm saying, just if you have to do for one person, you have to do that also for other people as well. But in general, I'm totally against this, because I feel that unless the athlete is clearly supporting the government, is clearly supporting his state, or the war of aggression his state is performing, is executing, there should be totally no ban for athletes to compete under their flag, because I feel, as I said before in introduction, politics and games and sports should be totally separated. I know that this never happens, and not because of the athletes, but because of the politicians of the governments. But I feel like that Russians and Belarusians should be able to compete under the Russian flag as well as the Israeli did. Well, so what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, those athletes, until proven otherwise, are not part of their respective governments, are not fighting in the actual wars. So to attribute the faults of a government to an individual, as I always say, it's not great for a Western ideal, because we're all about individualism, and then we group people based, again, as to pick up what I was saying earlier, based on identity and groups instead of their individuality. Plus, let me just add a quick point that, once again, everything today is so political, everything today is so tribal. Also goes back to other episode on the American politics. We always have to talk about politics, and not even doing it through a normal civil way, but always in a aggressive manner. So when I see the Olympics politicized, I really turn off the channel.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And now, going back to something political, anyway, we have the probably the most controversial issue matter about the Olympics, which is the one regarding Iman Khalif, the intersex Algerian boxer, who we know that there has been a lot about her on every kind of media, national, international, and so first of all, we we have researched something about her. We have understood that she's an intersex person, and by intersex person, and I quote the United Nations definition, intersex people are born with sex characteristics that do not fit typical binary notions of male or female bodies. So in this case, what we know about her is that during some tests she has undergone previously with the Boxing Association, with the IBA, she has resulted having high levels of testosterone. So having some features which in this case are closer to a male. Basically, the major controversy began after Khalif's first match, with the Italian opponent Angela Carini. The latter withdrew shortly after the beginning of the match, saying that she had a lot of pain from Khalif's punches and she did not want to risk breaking her nose, for example. This sparked unfounded claims on social media. We know also politicians as Trump, also Giorgia Meloni commented something. The author J.K. Rowling, Elon Musk, and so on and so forth commented on that. And this only based on the previous decision of the IBA, which disqualified Khalif and also another boxer, the Taiwanese Lin Yuting, from competing in a championship. However, the IBA's was contrasted by the Olympic Committee, who instead led the two athletes participate to the Olympics. Both boxers won the gold medal in their respective weights, and basically we come out from this situation with Khalif filing a hate speech lawsuit against multiple people, including Elon Musk and J.K. Rowling. This is because they obviously commented in a very rude way about her sexuality and her participation in the female category. Now, I want to be totally unbiased, and if I have to say something about this, I just believe that people should compete with others who have the same physical characteristics. So in this case, if the test really resulted in high levels of testosterone, Iman Khalif should have competed with males. But if you do not know the person, if you do not know her story completely, and if you do not see a clinical records completely, there is something like a veil of ignorance from anyone to comment on this.
Well, sort of, right? Because it's a straight question to you. Do you think it's fair that someone who's jacked up with testosterone was able to compete with other females?
No. As I said, I think that she should have competed with males. But as I said, not knowing her complete clinical records, there's still a sort of veil of ignorance in that sense.
Yes, but we're sort of seeing how she failed the gender tests, and clearly the Olympics staff didn't want to create controversies, so that's why they weren't really um, going harder on this. So I don't know. She's definitely not a 100% a man. She's definitely not 100% a woman, or at least chemicals wise, definitely not 100% a woman. You could have betted on her that she would have won. When I saw her, like, oh yeah, she's gonna win. Guess what? She won. So it's just crazy to me how they picked her over other many Algerian women. It's strange. It's a strange choice. I think our Italian boxer was a little bit too exaggerated, uh, or maybe she definitely felt the pain. I'm not sure. I'm not her, but I felt like she was over exaggerating in her reaction.
Yeah, I think I could agree on that. Now, moving to our topics, there's a lot of stuff, and we have few time remaining. Apart from some countries winning their first medal, such as Saint Lucia, Botswana, Dominica, and Guatemala, we know that the United States won 1-1 the same amount of gold medals as China, but they won more silver and bronze medals, so they managed to win the competition. We can say, if there is a real winner of the competition. We remember we have to mention the US basketball team. They called themselves the Avengers after the Dream Team of 1992 and the other team, now I forgot the name, of 2008 with Kobe Bryant. So that was something incredible. There are two last aspects I would like to mention about the games per se, that are the bad referees peak for some events. I remember the case of the Italian fencer Filippo Macchi, who lost 15-14 in the final. He could have won the gold medal, but he was defeated by an Hong Kong's fencer who had to defend his Olympic champion title. However, the decision, apparently, I'm not an expert of fencing, so I do not know in technical terms, but apparently the decision was not right, because Macchi actually hit the Hong Kong athlete. However, the two referees did not see that. They have seen that the Hong Kong athlete had hit Macchi first. And then the controversy was basically related to the nationality of referees, because as we said, the other athlete was from Hong Kong. The two referees were Asians as well, because they were from South Korea and Taiwan. Now, at the Olympics, referees are randomly picked. They're not selected by someone, they are picked. But when you see that two Asian referees come out in a match where there is an Asian, what is the problem of changing at least one of the two? So I think that is a really mismanagement of the competition, as well as the scandal in the match Italy-Hungary of water polo. And something particular which I casually watched was the shot put. During the shot put, there was a lot of slippery floor. Many athletes almost fell. I think our Italian Fabbri lost the medal because of the slippery floor. And the referees were just there watching the athletes, saying, "Yeah, no worry, it will dry up." And how can you say that to someone who's competing and maybe have trained all his entire life just for that event to win the gold medal, and then you say to him, "No, I know the wet is slippery, but it will dry up, so you may try again next turn." How you dare to say that? But anyways, I think we just conclude that remembering our great Turkish guy, which is the meme guy. He's become very famous just because he had no equipment and still got the silver medal in air pistol shooting. And now I'll leave you the floor, Ali, to continue about the Olympic Village.
It's actually not much. Apart from the fact that I want the signature of the Turkish guy because he's my daddy now. Anyways, I think the Olympic Village. Well, it's not that I think, it's what the athletes are saying. It was horrible in terms of air conditioning and food. The British, because they're British, they didn't like the food, and so they called their own private chef. It was pretty funny. And then the BBC reported on the sustainable conditions of the village, which were unsustainable. Plus, we have another example, of Thomas Checon, again Italian, because we like to complain. He slept outside in an adjacent park, and there was sort of like a scandal because you see an Olympic athlete sleeping outside and not inside the villages. So that was peculiar too. I think we should move on directly to the closing ceremony so we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Just let me comment just two words about what you just said about the Olympic Village. I think, again, as the case of Fabri in the shot put in Italy, of Italian shot put athlete, when you train yourself your entire life to compete at these levels, to win a medal, you're sweating so much for what you're doing, then you have no AC, so there is too hot. The food is not that good because maybe you do not want to waste money, and so you pay not the high level chef. Then you have paper beds, which many athletes said they were good, many others complained about them. So I think athletes comfortableness should come athletes comfort should come first to anything else at the Olympic Games. But then anyway, let's move to the closing ceremony. The closing ceremony, I think there has been no specific controversy. There has been Tom Cruise parachuting from the roof of the stadium, just to pass the Olympic torch to the Los Angeles mayor, because the next Olympics will be in Los Angeles, and also to present his new film, Mission Impossible. So again, that I perceive that as really bad, that you have to use Olympics to make publicity to your new film. But anyways, so next Olympics, as we said, will be in Los Angeles, and here already controversies have started with new sports introduced in Los Angeles, such as baseball, cricket, flag football, or lacrosse and squash, which are we can call them American sports, meaning that they are practiced more in the United States, so that people think that the United States will be, in a certain sense, favored while competing at the 2028 Olympics. And I think that's it.
We just have a final conclusion to put out there, which is in form of a question. Should the Olympics be for everybody? Should they be political or not? Let us know your answers in the comments down below.
And with this, we conclude our third episode. Remember to follow us on
Instagram and LinkedIn. Network Studenti Sicurezza Italiani is the name. For the English speakers, it's NSSI. Then on YouTube, and lastly on our podcast platforms Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music.
Remember to be healthy, practice sports, and see you on the next episode.